Cool. So welcome everybody. This is SharePoint Patterns and Practices community call. This is the general SharePoint development special interest group call, meeting bi-weekly. And we always talk about kind of solution architectures, provisioning, PowerShell, and non-SharePoint framework stuff. That's pretty much the agenda for today. So the SharePoint framework, concentration on SharePoint framework is on the SPFX special interest group calls bi-weekly on Thursdays as well. So basically every single Thursday we do have a community call for SharePoint, and then on top of that we have the monthly community call as well. But really the key point of this call is to address the classic scenario where we started with the monthly community calls, and then we started having way too many people in the call. We were unable to have any more Q&A discussions, so we started these special interest group calls. And the intention was to have always Q&A in the end, and I think we actually slightly have failed on that recently, so we maybe need to fix that in the future, so people can actually talk about or ask questions, and we can talk about solution designs for SharePoint and using the Office 365 in general. Russell is asking, any big announcements from MVP Summit? Yes, we can keep secret. Absolutely. We'll talk about the roadmap slightly in a few of the slides again today, but obviously we can't really talk about what has been covered in the MVP Summit today. Today in the room we have Waldek Mastercard. Hello. Erwin. Hello. Paolo. Hello. And the rest of the guys are picking up coffee. They're getting coffee because it's an early morning. But there's Sebastian Levers from Valo Intranet. There's Tommy. There's who do we have on the room? Elio, obviously. Elio. Yeah. So quite a lot of people. We'll take a few pictures and post the pictures in the Twitter, so people can at least see that this is real and we're in an actual one room. Cool. Let's actually get started on the things. So exactly, Pixar didn't happen. Oh, Tobias is there. Cool. So if you're interested in participating on this call and this community and SharePoint community in general, we do welcome you to join us on this community. So this is not exclusive at all for MVPs. We welcome everybody to join. First of all, all of these special interest group calls. You can join on the calls, ask questions. You can provide us issue reports. You can provide us input through GitHub, on Twitter and social media as well. You can also contribute in GitHub, so submitting pull requests, and we are always trying to get those pull requests processed as fast as possible. We do know that we are again slightly behind of the ideal situation on the pull request side, but we're trying to address that as fast as possible. And obviously the key point is to provide feedback. So if you're running into any issues, if you doubt that it's the SharePoint SPFX as an example, or the provisioning things, how it actually works, provide us feedback, ask questions, give us input so we know how to fix that stuff. Paolo, do you mind actually close the door until the guys are coming from coffee pickup? Now, agenda for today, I'm going to be relatively short myself. There's a few slides which we'll only go through, and then we'll give Giuliano De Luca an opportunity to show his really great modern provisioning solution using Flow and Azure Functions. And this is something which is available from the PnP GitHub repository, so you can pull it down and learn how to do a self-service provisioning solutions for yourself as well. So great job on Giuliano on that one. So it's kind of a classic provisioning solution, and I know that many of you maybe have implemented those in the past, but this is then using the modern UIs and modifying them as well, and using Flow and Azure Function, which is always cool. The second demo is kind of really interesting. So this is really early preview. We can't give you any timelines potentially on CSOM Core, CSOM.NET Core version, or PowerShell.NET, SharePoint Online PowerShell Core version at this point. But we do have a preview on the cross-platform PnP PowerShell Core done by Erwin. And we're going to talk about what it actually means, also what it actually offers and what are the options with that one. It's kind of cool that we're moving more and more to this cross-platform model, where anything what you develop also in a Windows platform works in any other platforms as well. world has changed so much since I joined Microsoft, and this is great. Open source, community, cross-platform, all of that has happened since my 12 years in Microsoft. Ooh, horrifying. Cool. Let's get actually going. So a few slides from my side, and then let's jump on Juliana after that. So documentation guidance, I promised to give this in every single session. I want to make sure that people know about it. So AKMS SP DevDocs, a new location replacing MSDN. A lot of the areas in MSDN are already redirecting to this location. It's one new consolidated platform. Information, documents, articles are actually in GitHub, but there's the docs.microsoft.com/SharePoint side of to view and see the documentation. And you're able to contribute if you find a typo. There's some typos into articles, which is especially understandable when I've written them. Or if you find any other issues on the articles, you are more than willing and you're more than welcome to submit pull requests and change requests and issues to our issue list as well. So we're able to address those in our documentation. Now, in February, just to give you an idea on the scale, we had 781,000 views in February, which is actually quite a lot considering that we had 400,000 in October. So we kind of doubled our views and the documentation views within a few months, which is obviously really great. But whatever is missing from a documentation perspective, let's try to address that. Now, running into issues, really important thing as well, because we seem to keep, at least personally, I still seem to get a lot of emails, people asking directly that I have this issue, can you help me? The reality is that I don't scale, or the individual MVPs don't scale either. And that's not the efficient way of addressing the issue. So if you find an issue in the SharePoint dev story, in on-premises, or in cloud, or in SPFX, or in provisioning, APIs, whatever, go to our SP DevDocs issue list. The easiest URL to remember, AKMS SP Dev issues. We in SharePoint Engineering, we triage these issues twice a week or 3 times a week, except this week has been an exception due to the MVP Summit. And then we go and they are assigned directly to our engineers in the Visual Studio Online. So we replicate all of these issues directly to our Visual Studio Online. And we really need to know if you run into these issues. If you have throttling issues, 429s, more than welcome, let us know. And then we'll ask the needed details to figure out what actually is causing the 429s and the throttling issues for you. It's better to use the issue list so that other people can see the answer as well, rather than waiting for me to get to your email, which might be in 2025, because my inbox is just completely out of control. There is some extension box. Philip is referring to the events around the pages and then SPFX extension. That should be now fixed, so we are waiting for that one to leak finally on the server side. And please feel free to always go back on the issue and poke and CC me, for example, on the issue, so that will land on kind of a notification on, hey, nobody has done anything with that. Please keep on doing that. You can do that even daily. So it will get to the level of annoyance, which is fine, because then that means that we'll have to address your ask around the issues. So please feel free to do that. Cool. Updates quickly. This is kind of related on yes, I have probably uploaded the right version. So a quick update on the 1.4.1. Just a review on this one, because the 1.4.1 actually is not just for SharePoint Framework. The SharePoint Framework 1.4.1 opens up a really, really, really great scenarios for automation, Azure Functions. You can secure the Azure Function calls from the client side, and there's many, many other scenarios as well. So this came out a few weeks ago. Please give us feedback. We're looking into having this one going GA potentially even before SharePoint conference, which would be great for everybody, so everybody can start using this. A quick update on the SharePoint development. This has not been changed that much since the 2 weeks ago in this SIG when we actually went through. We shipped a lot of stuff after the Ignite, and coming soon is the Hub Sites and Hub API. So we are now on 8th of March. But we are right now committed, unless there's really last-minute surprises, to get this one out during this quarter. So it will be available. There will be announcements by end of this month. So we're talking a kind of well, days, well, weeks, but anyway, by end of March. So we're able to start testing the Hub APIs, and we're planning to go GA quite fast with that one as well. So we absolutely need your feedback. Is it working properly? How's the APIs and all of that stuff? So please, 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 whenever that goes live, please active on our issue list, give us feedback as well. And then the second thing is the Groupify API. So Groupify API is the one where if you have a classic SharePoint team site in SharePoint Online, and a lot of you have, and a lot of our customers have a classic team site because that's the classic story. You want to potentially associate an Office 365 group to that existing classic team site. So the Groupify API is there to automate that. But that has been unfortunately now slightly delayed, so it won't be out during this quarter. The latest is that it should be out relatively soon next quarter, but I'll keep you up to date on the high-level schedules on the thinking of what's going to happen. So every single week, basically, in these Thursday calls, we'll have a look on the schedules, and I'll try to give you some hints. I don't want to give you exact dates because the dates can always change, but some level of an idea when the functionalities will be available. Cool. Now, before we go to the actual demos and demo topics and things, let's do the one more time kind of an introduction from this side of the room because we only have 3 people in the room because people are waiting for our coffee machines to work. So, so it's kind of cool. It's 7 a.m. in the morning in Pacific time. This MVP Summit is going on. We can't obviously share you what was explained and shared in MVP Summit. Coffee. Except coffee was shared. And obviously we'll share more of those NDA and stuff in SBC 2018. So the Las Vegas is really the time for a lot of the capabilities, or we explain what are we planning to build during until Ignite. That's the SharePoint Conference 2018 in Las Vegas in end of May. So that's when stuff is going to go then public. But there's a lot of interesting stuff coming from the SharePoint engineering side, or is it? And let's do a quick round of table. Let's not spend too much time on it, but any feelings around the stuff that you've seen in MVP Summit? Don't disclose anything, obviously. But kind of an interesting from our side as well, from the engineering side, and get it recorded on the video as well. Anyway, let's start actually from Sebastian Levert from Valo Insurance side.
Actually, it's exciting. It's fun to have and to connect with all the MVPs and everything. We see lots of momentum happening, and we see that it's going to just move on and on and on. It's going to be more and more exciting the next couple of months. So I'm looking forward to be able to share.
But the capabilities are exciting.
Yeah. Features, dev story, capabilities, everything is
cool. Then we have next on the table Ilios Truth from Valo as well, actually.
Yeah, indeed. Hello, Elio from Belgium, although I'm now in Redmond. And it's like Seb said, there are some amazing things coming as well for SharePoint, as well on development stories. So we're really looking forward in the Vegas thingy, which is coming in 2 months.
Yeah, end of May is the SBC 2018. Yeah. That's now the SharePoint conference, the spring SharePoint conference is now our spring event, so we won't have any more of the virtual. I think it was 4th of May the first time, and then it was like 16th of May, and now we're going to use the SharePoint conference 2018 and in future potentially as well the SharePoint conference as the announcement location for all of this stuff, which is really cool as well. Cool. Let's continue on the table.
I'm Rick. I'm also from Belgium. This is actually my first summit. So I was blown away by all the things. Most of the stories are true that they say, so it was fun.
Blown away by the reception. Oh, there's Microsoft people, they're just human beings. That's kind of cool.
The amount of information they throw at you. So.
Yeah. Cool. Tommy?
Yeah, Tommy here from Austria. Actually, I only can continue what Rick said. Also my first MVP summit. And I'm really looking forward for my long flight tomorrow to process all the stuff this week. Maybe I'm able to do it, but I don't really think, because it was so much information, and especially the one session where we were like supposed to have 1 hour and we took 2.5 hours out of it. Really great stuff.
Yeah, we had a deep dive on SPFX, and I do apologize, obviously, we can't go and disclose what was actually talked. And it was booked for 1 hour, and we then needed to extend that on a next-door cafeteria for additional 1.5. So, but that was cool. We'll continue today on the SPFX as well. So, Paulo?
Really excited to be here. Of course, it's a great opportunity for all the MVPs, and I'm really looking forward to being able to share the new stuff when it will be possible. And there will be quite a lot of PnP videos coming in the future, as soon as we will be able to share the news.
Absolutely. Cool. Ilya, sorry, Ilya. Erwin. I mix you two so often.
Yeah,
Erwin. Well, technically, Erwin is going to show today something which isn't technically an engineering announcement, but something what we've done as a PnP open source initiative, which is called.
Yeah, well, I loved it when they showed, and then when they showed. So yeah, no.
Just dancing on the. What can I say?
Well, yeah, no. For me, it's amazingly interesting actually to see you guys in person and talk with you, sit down with you around the table, and actually discuss things in person. And so much content. Wonderful. Yeah.
Cool. Vale.
I love to see the fact that we get reassured on the investment and the effort, the passion that the Microsoft team puts into everything that they build. And if you bet on the technologies or the latest switch that we've seen in SPFX, you're in good hands because things are only going to get better and more. So rest assured that's not going away anytime soon. And if you're not doing it yet, SPFX and other things, that's the highest time to invest in that because there are a lot of investment going in that space. So definitely the highest time to start doing it.
Yeah, SPFX OBS and then all of the new capabilities and APIs related on that.
Correct.
Sure. Cool. Okay, thank you for that one. We took a few minutes on that one. Hopefully kind of interesting. We can't unfortunately tell you all of the announcements and we need to wait until the SPC 2018. But it's good to hear from Microsoft side as well that people are excited. So that's always great. But let's move to Giuliano De Lucas. Great demo as well. Absolutely brilliant stuff. So Giuliano, can you start sharing? And sharing is starting, and then
unmuting. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah. Slightly increased volume, but yeah, all good. Now let's see if the sharing actually starts. Crossing fingers for a Skype gods being on our side today.
Okay. Great.
Because right, I'm still seeing. Oh, now it's accept meeting content. Okay, interesting. Yeah.
Looks like your Skype, please.
Yeah, it might be my Skype. So let's see.
You have to buy a new laptop.
Mine as well.
Mine Skype too, actually.
You crashed all the Skypes.
My Skype is actually in a talking state too.
No, cool. People are saying, you're right on the Mac the first time.
Yeah.
It's difficult here.
Yeah, I have the same problem.
Okay, so Giuliano, can I hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, so while I can actually see what I'm sharing, my computer, which is shared on the screen in the room, is out of. I'm going to reconnect, so that's going to probably help on this one. But please move forward. Burton and Patrick are recording the session as well, so we'll be fine.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everybody. I am Giuliano De Luca. I am an Office Development MVP. I'm currently working for Hugo Boss, a company based in Germany, as a software engineer. I'd like to show you an interesting scenario in order to provision SharePoint team site communication or site or Microsoft Teams. Let's see the solution architecture. So basically, a user is able to request a new SharePoint team site communication or Teams across a bot. The bot uses the app-only permission in order to save the request in a SharePoint list, which is accessible only from an admin. I configured for my case several channels like Teams, Direct Line, and Skype, and also Cortana. And for my opinion, the greatest benefit by using a bot is the possibility to define and enable several channels. And this is a great advantage for the user, because the user has basically several entry points. After that, the request is stored in the SharePoint list. The admin can approve the request if everything looks good as reason of the request, and the approve will trigger a Microsoft Flow, and basically the Microsoft Flow will call the Azure function. It's a C# Azure function, and I stored in this case my tenant admin password in a Azure Key Vault. I like to use this approach because I have several Azure function, and in this way everything is centralized in the Azure Key Vault in terms of secrets. The Azure function makes use of Office PnP Core in order to provision the SharePoint team site and the communication site, and make use of Microsoft Graph API in order to create the Microsoft Teams. After that, the Azure function return a response to the flow with HTTP status 200 and basically the URL of the SharePoint site or the name of the teams. And after that, the last step will be that the flow send a notification by email. Okay, I think we can go to the demo directly. So I have my teams here. I am a normal user. Now I can interact with the bot that I prepared. So, and firstly, I have the possibility across a carousel and a hero card to select what I want, and I'm gonna request a Microsoft Teams. So now I will define the title, PnP John Cole. Next step, it's define the reason. The email of the owner. And finally the alias, which is unique. And finally I can confirm. Okay, the request has been submitted. It means that if I go on my list, SharePoint list, I'm able to see the request of the user. And here we go. So it's requested, and the admin has received an email. So now I'm going to approve. The reason looks good, and let's approve it. Okay, now it's approved, and see the Microsoft Flow is running, not yet. The solution is available on GitHub, SharePoint PnP, and solution, and finally Office 365.modern.provisioning. Everything is, I think, well documented, every single step in order to build up this kind of scenario. And I hope this could be helpful for someone else. I hope that Microsoft Flow is started. Not yet. meantime, I can show you the solution. Okay, this is the solution. I uploaded the package of Microsoft Flow. In this way, it's absolutely easy to import in another tenant. And there is here the modern provisioning Azure function that I can show you here in Visual Studio. So basically here I will grab the password of my admin tenant in the store, which is stored in the key vault. And after I'll make use of Office PnP Core in order to grab the approved list item and finally start the provisioning according with the user's request. For the communication site and team site, I'm using the Office PnP Core, and for Teams, I'm using Microsoft Graph. I created an helper in this function, which allow me to get the token and create the unified group. Okay, switch back on Flow. Fantastic, it's not started. Let's try again. Okay, let's see now.
So quickly, there was a question: is it slow, or because the site creation site is getting created? But it is actually the new modern site creation takes like 4 to 5 seconds. So in the past, no doubt, when you were creating a site collection in SharePoint Online, that was actually quite painful, and we do get that, and that's why we changed that. Do numerous modifications what we did in engineering side, including the modern UI, which now if you create a new site collection, and you can get a new site collection within 4 to 5 seconds, and that's pretty awesome.
Okay.
And in this case, if we are seeing, well, we might be seeing some, let's say, connectivity challenges between the Flow and Azure function. And that might be because the Azure function isn't, let's say, woken up yet. So it is technically, and there's an application pause behind all of that. And there might be delays. If we warm up the application, if the Azure function is getting constantly called, it is super fast.
Okay.
But
I can show you another thing. In the solution, there is the SharePoint Framework Extension Application Customizer. Basically, I used the application customizer of Frank or New, and I modified a little bit the code of my needs. But basically, from here, the user can request a team site, for example. Let's create a new one.
There is a query in that.
You need to get this one.
to open the door from here.
Oh, okay. So then, yeah.
It means no closed captions.
Yeah.
Luca, explain what you're doing. Come on.
What is happening?
Okay, I have a new request here. And
So
let's
using
try
the
to-
bot, we got a new request on the list again. Yep,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
And now I will approve it.
And at
Okay,
this point, the float will again fire.
Hopefully. Yes, it's running.
And that's then calling the Azure function, obviously, and that's
Yeah.
going to then call back on the SharePoint Online side.
Yeah, exactly.
That shouldn't take too long, a few seconds, so let's see if we refresh the page. Yeah, there we go, there's the new request. But then it really comes down on to how the Azure function, what is the Azure function situation or status right now. Well, it's still actually running as well. There's now multiple requests on running.
Okay, let's see in the meantime if I'm able to. Yeah, here we go. The team is available here, and the user can add in Teams.
Yeah.
Yes, here we go. Okay. So from the code perspective, as I said, I use the application customizer, and the bot also is available here. The main files are app.js and the package JSON, so you can copy and paste this code in your bot. And yes, everything is here. It's pretty easy and well documented in order to rebuild exactly this scenario. It's available also on Cortana, so I can interact with the bot also in Cortana, for example. Yeah. Hey, Cortana.
That's part of the bot framework. Basically, you can do the connections between Skype and, well, not Skype anymore, right? We use Microsoft Teams, and then the other channels as well, like Cortana.
Yeah.
Cool. That's really. Yep.
That's all. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Luca. Really cool solution. And like the URL is in the IAM window, and there is a quite nice guidance on how to set up things. There was already a question in the IAM window that failure on the step 1 or something. Maybe Luca, you can have a look on that one and get some details on the IAM window. There was a question around how to get started. So, but I think it's just a matter of getting familiar also on Azure AD. So there's quite a lot of pieces in this kind of a solutions. But what's kind of cool within here is the fact that it's still completely server-side cloud driven solution with Flow and Azure Function, and that's really where we are heading for many of our solution designs. So moving the business logic to the Azure Function side, and then Flow being the orchestrator on things, and SharePoint being then the UI, the portal, files, and items on that side. So, and SharePoint framework then being the modern UI for exposing stuff. So great work also on the chatbot integration with an application customizer. We've seen a few of those examples in the SPFX side as well. And that's clearly something what people are looking into potentially add to their intranet as well. So cool. Thanks, Luca, for that one more time. I think we need to flip to Irving.
Yeah.
So let's talk about something slightly different, completely different.
You make me a presenter.
Do I need to make you a presenter?
No. Yes.
You can do a pantomime. We can take videos of that. Make a presenter. There we go.
Thank you very much. So, those of you that were in the call a couple of weeks ago might have seen a very early preview of PnP PowerShell on Linux. I demoed that at the time. And during that call, I mentioned explicitly and very strongly that we would not port CSOM to Linux or Mac. And I have to admit that I lied.
You were wrong. Irvin was wrong. Unbelievable.
So let me share my screen.
And let me be from engineering side.
Oh, it's my microphone.
Yes.
Okay.
So let me be.
I'm muted.
Let me be super clear. So this is something which is just a technology demo right now.
Yes.
We're looking into having CSOM with the .NET Core support, but I can't give any timelines right now. But this is something what the PnP team has been testing together with the PnP PowerShell, and I'll let Irvin do the not steal any thunder.
So what we did is this happened a few weeks ago.
And by the way, the fact that Irvin is running an Apple operating system is
Bottom back.
No, well,
Bottom back.
yeah. Okay, let's not dive into deep on how I'm doing this, but
And what?
so a few weeks ago, I was talking to Bert, and Bert was like, you know what? Give me the weekend, and I'll get back to you on Monday. And he actually did the port in a weekend of .NET Framework season to .NET Core season, which is pretty crazy. Then it took me a tiny bit of a week in total, somewhere here and there in my free time, to port PnP Core and PnP PowerShell to .NET Core. Or actually, I have to be more specific. We didn't port it to .NET Core. We ported it to .NET Standard, which means you can actually still use it in the .NET Framework. You can also use it in .NET Core, because that's somewhere it lies somewhere in the middle of .NET Standard. So what you're looking at here is is macOS, and in there I am running PowerShell. So I installed PowerShell Core, the open source version of PowerShell. I installed the commandlets, and from this moment on, I can just do what you're used to: get PnP online, connect PnP online, enter my URL. And you notice that even here I don't enter my credentials, because in this case we do connect to the Apple keychain and pick up the credentials on the keychain there. And I'm connected, and I can use the get PnP list. And we have actually over 300 commandlets right now, and they're all available on the Mac too. So they all work. To show you, to prove you that there's actually CSOM behind the scenes, I can say, give me a context. So this get PnP context command that returns just the CSOM context, and I can do all the things with the normal context. So if I want to load the web from the context, so old school, then the web is a normal CSOM object with all the properties. So we have full coverage of CSOM here. Now, is everything working? No, not necessarily. We have, for instance, in PnP Core, the ability to do a web login. That is depending on the ability to do a pop-up with an embedded browser in there. That functionality you cannot pull off with Core or .NET Standard. So the web login, which many people use to do multi-factor authentication, will not work on a Mac or on a Linux machine. We have another solution there, which is called device login, which I gladly and proudly stole from the CLI guys, that approach. So we have a new switch available if you want to use that. I won't go into details, check out the latest build. But there's a switch that allows you to use the device login. It will pop up a browser, you have to paste in a code, and it will authenticate you that way towards your site. So I'm pretty excited about this. Now, where are we now? Is this released for you to download and install? No, there is no PowerShell Gallery component currently for the PnP PowerShell. We're talking to engineering. We had really good talks yesterday already with engineering, and we're looking into how to bring this forward and release this to the community. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. I hope you guys too. Scenarios, if you don't run a Mac, why would it be interesting for you? Well, you could run this in a Docker image, for instance, that you provision to Azure and run it there. And right now I'm demoing PowerShell, but it's full CSOM, so I can just launch Visual Studio Code, write a C# console application in .NET Core and run that. I could run code on my phone, on my Android phone, on your iPad, or wherever. I could, and keep in mind, the full PnP provisioning engine is part of this. So you can, if you want to go crazy, run an application on your iPad that provisions a template to a SharePoint site. all the functionality is there.
Yeah. On that design, I have to jump in and say potentially maybe a better design would be putting the logic in Azure Function.
Absolutely, absolutely. But conceptually,
yes,
it's all there.
Yes.
So if you want to look, how did we pull it off? Did we had to make changes? Yes, we had to make some changes to PnP Sites Core. Those changes are already merged into the master branch. Those changes, you will see that we sometimes have compiler directives in the code where we filter out stuff for .NET Standard and so for the .NET Framework. So here and there you will see some compiler directives, mainly in the authentication and identity management stuff, because that works a bit different on .NET Core or .NET Standard than it does on the .NET Framework. And that's where the biggest area in PnP Sites Core where we had to make changes. Similar in the PnP PowerShell, I had to make some changes here and there. But they are mainly applicable to the Connect PnP Online commandlets, where we had to do different things for the different platforms. So very excited about this. Code is available for you to check out in the branches. Have a look at it, and please give me feedback.
And on this one actually, so let me paste in the user voice entry around that one as well. So. Just making sure that I actually got the demand collected, because obviously in user voice, I'm going to paste in this one in a second. On the IM window, there is a request for CSOM.NET Core, and that is now number 4 in the SharePoint Dev Platform list. So getting more votes helps us to prioritize things internally. Now, our engineering managers or directors are highly aware of, like Irvin said, we had a meeting yesterday with our side, the engineering people, the right people, and we're looking into absolutely make this happen. The question is just what is the priorities of making the .NET Core for CSOM to happen? And clearly people want to use CSOM. Some people are saying, why would you use a client-side object model? If you're not familiar with that, well, probably won't. You'll use the REST APIs, but if you come from a farm solution background or a managed code background, then the CSOM absolutely makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And having the .NET standard version of CSOM available will then help on running that on any machine. And that's super cool.
To mention one gap that is currently still not available in REST, and that's taxonomy. Now we have that here on every platform. So pretty cool.
Yes. The taxonomy APIs are then exposed through that CSOM standard version through standard APIs for any platform. That's really cool. Yeah. Yes. Even though it's using the client SVC under the hood, but doesn't really matter. No. Cool. On other topics, so we've had one more guy dropping in. We did a quick round of kind of a hey, the feelings of this week. Chris Kent just dropped in on the live on the room as well. And I want to ask Chris the same question as we had a discussion with other people. Do not disclose anything on the what you know, but what's your feeling around the stuff what you see in here? Because every now and then on these calls, people are saying that, well, why isn't the roadmap now already updated? And the reason is that we update the roadmap on Spring event, which will be the SBC 2018. But is there any stuff coming? What's your feelings on the stuff what you're seeing?
Good stuff. I saw stuff, good stuff. Like I actually did a direct bug submission last night. Someone on the engineering team, so that was nice. Cool. So there you go. That's great. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Cool. So good stuff, great stuff coming. Cool stuff coming. Now we do have plenty of time for Q&A for today. We can close early if there's no questions on the windows or in the window. There's now a question around what about creating a modern team sites with Azure app only auth and not with username password from the tenant admin, because that approach is not much appreciated in by our customers. So now the app only support for modern team sites is not there. We do acknowledge that. That's something where we need to have, well, I'm kind of doing matrix waving of my hands here. We need to have some user voice entries and showing the demand for it. Now, Paolo, a few times in these calls have shown, and I think we had a session webcast even on that one, a model where you actually bypass the access token of the user, the Azure function, which is alive for, what is it, 1 hour?
I think 30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Eventually you can even pass the refresh
Yes.
token too and
Yes,
the new access token.
because that's the way you can then tackle the challenge. So you don't actually need to have a service account in the Azure function. You just basically bypass the access token of a user to Azure function, and then you can use that to call from Azure function to SharePoint Online as the identity of the person. Because that's really cool, because then the operations in SharePoint Online are done by the person itself. So I think we had a webcast on that one earlier this year, if I remember correctly.
And we also did a demo a few days ago in the draft monthly call about how to use the access token and how to use the blob storage queue to pass the access token to the backend microservice. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Massimo, yes, okay, cool. Massimo has a super important question there, which I'm trying to find some time to do proper communication and announcements on this one. So Massimo is looking into guidance on migrating from ACS. And the answer is, don't worry, it's going to work. So our current situation in the engineering, together with Azure AD people, we've gone through the SharePoint the platform. We're not going to actually deprecate and remove that ACS support, which is behind of the adding model. The ACS is going to be, some of the ACS capabilities will be deprecated and shut down by November. But the stuff which is running SharePoint Online is not going to be impacted on this one. That's the current situation. We will have guidance and updated status on that one. We just need to do final checks on the messaging as well. There might be some other areas in the SharePoint which might be theoretically impacted. In on-premises, for example, theoretically some hybrid scenarios between SharePoint Online and on-prem. But the adding model, ACS, don't worry, taken care of. You don't have to do anything, it just works. Like it should be, right? But we'll do proper messaging on that one slightly later. Thanks, Joe. That's one way of kind of thinking that, hey, we need to have more job or more customer engagement. So, dear Microsoft, can you break all of the customers so we can help them to get fixed again? And we can blame you. Oh, story of my life. Page layouts for modern sites. Rahul asking, good question. So we are in MVP Summit. I can't disclose our thinking on this one, but obviously we are aware that the base layouts is something which we need to solve in the modern sites. When and how, we can't disclose that at this point, but we are absolutely looking into addressing the base layouts for modern sites as well. Potentially it might be that you don't actually have base layouts like in the, let's say, classic base layout ASPX way, but you're able to define the default web parts and sections and all of that for the pages which are getting created. Well, I'm not going to deep dive on this one until I start leaking the other stuff. Yes. But yeah, so we're looking into that one. Absolutely, we understand the demand. We are, from a SharePoint engineering perspective, the communication portal is our modern portal platform. So whatever is missing from a communication portal comparing to the classic publishing portals, we are absolutely looking to address those gaps. It's just the journey does take a while, and we'll try to address that ASAP. If there is an SPFX work in the Caribbean, Ralph,
looking for a job.
You're probably looking for a job. Yeah, that's fine. We can use this course to say, try to find a job for Ralph. No, just kidding, Ralph.
There is one question for Rami. Any examples on how to brand modern sites using PnP?
Oh, good. Awesome question, Rami. So we are until the So how would I put this? As a SharePoint BMP team, we are actually heavily now investing on providing you this kind of an end-to-end portal guidance. But this will unfortunately take some time. So right now, if you might be familiar with SharePoint Partner Pack, you might be familiar with the GDPR Hub, but we want to actually build this end-to-end modern portal sample, which can be easily provisioned by anybody for pre-sales purposes, for learning purposes, and that will then show you what are the gaps and what you can do with the modern portals. And we keep on evolving that. It will be open source. Now, you have to give us a few months, and we're looking into getting that potentially then available in SPC 18. So not a secret thing, but you'll see us concentrating on this area within upcoming months, absolutely. There was a question on audiences, SPFX web part. So classic audiences, great question, by the way, obviously. Classic audiences do not really work on SharePoint Online. The reason for that one is that the audience is based on a compilation time grouping. So there is a separate compilation of an audience. If you ever been a on-premises SharePoint farm administrator, you have to configure these things. In SharePoint Online, we compile your audiences once a week as well. So that's not really the audience what you're looking for. So we're looking into having a more robust way of doing this. Obviously, already right now, you can do this as a custom implementation. As an example, taking into account a user profile properties of a user and show dynamically search-driven data based on, for example, the location of a user. But that right now requires some level of a customization. So we're looking into having that more natively within a product, but we can't give you exact timelines right now. Absolutely into radar.
There's a question from Per Jacobson. He said, is there any way to block a site script until an Azure function has completed?
Oh, yes. So is there any way for blocking a site script or site design being executed until the Azure function is getting completed? So because you are able to call in a flow, which is then calling Azure function, and then the site can be actually ready, so the end user lands on a site and then refreshes and whoop, now something happened. Now, Sean Squires, who owns the site designs, is not right now on well-deserved family vacation, but we already before his vacation we were looking into getting that work moving forward, where you can define a flips in the site design potentially, where you say that, well, do not let the end user go to the site until a following switch has been updated. And then you can actually update that switch in the Azure function. So that way you won't be landing on the site until the site is actually completed. Great question. We are aware of the challenge and we want to absolutely address that.
Connected to the site design question, is there a plan if you can apply a site design after a site has been created? Yes, you can.
Yes, already latest version.
It's available. There is an invoke SPO site design commandlet, and there's also a PnP equivalent, that same commandlet, that allows you to apply a design after the site has been created, or any moment in time you can apply site design.
Yes, and not only PowerShell. There's a CSOM API as well. And Erwin is PowerShell guy, so he doesn't think that.
I mean, the easiest way to get up and running with it is, I would say.
Absolutely, yes. But you are able to apply a site design on an existing site. So that was something which was in a roadmap right after the initial release. Then we're looking into potentially having like capabilities like if you associate a site to a hub site, you can say that following site design should be applied as part of that association. There's a lot of other things what we have in the potential roadmap, which we can't promise that will deliver or when they will be delivered, but it's good to know that there is a long roadmap behind of this thinking.
There is another question from Yomi. Please, how can we update existing web part packages to use new SPFX? Actually, we published, I think, 2 weeks ago, a webcast in which we explain how to do that. So
if you go to the AKMS, I'm going to add this one in here. So AKMS SPDev videos, and you have a look on the list of webcasts, and there is a webcast where Paolo is actually showing how to do an upgrade. Now, there is a separate effort, Waldeck and AC are looking into doing some automation on this side as well with Office 365 CLI, which is kind of cool. Any other questions? We want to have a million placeholders question, which is understandable ask. So we're looking obviously additional placeholders, additional component types. We in the engineering side, we need to be relatively careful on what placeholders we actually enable, because modern team sites and communication sites will have to work on mobile devices as well. So basically, you like the classic requirements of, hey, I want to have a placeholder on the left navigation, and then you have blocks on the left navigation. That's not actually, that wouldn't be that functional in a mobile device, which is why we haven't actually enabled that yet. We're looking at different alternatives on that, but we need to make sure that whatever we do natively in SharePoint engineering is immediately adaptable also by the mobile devices. Good. Power Apps SP form on mobile. We don't have checks on the road, so that one accounts around that one. I think we're looking into having the Power Apps, there are investments on Power Apps, absolutely. So that's heading to the right direction as well. So more flexibility. Any questions what I'm missing?
What about variations and language support?
Oh, yes. Yes. So from Santro, so the variation is a promise of a multi-tenant solution, but no, it really isn't, and it works horribly. Let's be kind of honest and transparent on that. And now this got recorded. Maybe Patrick or Bert, can we beep that? No, just kidding. So, but the variation is a really old technology, and it's more around hierarchical copy. And the problems with the variations is that it always copies everything. So for all of the variation childs, or what are they, variation labels, I can't remember the terminology even anymore, but it's not really flexible enough to real multilingual solution. So we're looking alternative solution for that one for modern portals. Absolutely in the radar. Super hard thing to come up with a end-to-end solution which works 100% for everything or single scenario. So we'll see what will be the first solution on that one, but we'll definitely have something for you to show sooner or later. Good. Thank you, Paula, on the issue lists. Yes, so on the issue list, let me actually, I have put an actual link there as well. So AKMS SP Dev issues, and that's going to redirect you to the issue list, and you can absolutely ask questions. That's also the issue list where we want to have documentation gaps, API issues, and all of that. So in the past, we've been hearing that when you have a customization or development challenge, you try to call Microsoft support or SharePoint Online support, they say that, sorry, we don't support customizations. And clearly we support customizations because we have a SharePoint framework. So, but we're trying to address that now as at least as a simple solution for now is this issue list. So anybody without a Premier support can go and ask a question, and we'll get to that question. Now, we can't promise get to the question and fix the issue in a matter of days, but the whole point is that you are able to tell us if something is wrong. So thank you all already for everybody who's actively using that list, because that helps us on addressing those issues which you're running into all the time. Cool. I think we're running out of time. We need to actually jump to a pretty, and I do apologize, special SPFX post day on MVP Summit to talk about some of the stuff which we mentioned in here, but not in the technical details. But thank you everybody for joining. Thank you everybody for joining also in the room from an MVP Summit side. And let's keep on please do keep on sending feedback for us. Don't send me emails. Use the issue list, use other stuff. So we'll actually get your issues and questions addressed. So that's the way we scale, and we scale together with community. You are the value of the SharePoint. You are absolutely the key value of what we are doing. But thank you, everybody. I think it's time to close up, and we'll have the next community call actually next Tuesday, which when we have a monthly community call for March 2018 monthly community call. So a summary on all the things what has happened in SharePoint Dev, across SharePoint Online and on-premises, where we go through that and a few community demos. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.